And I'm back with more Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. Last time, we talked to Officer Meekins. We got some stuff figured out from him, and now we've got to talk to Jake Marshall. So let's fucking go. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. She didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand, the officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me? I'm just a man same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you'll hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the murder, correct? According to the papers. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert stands. No paper could sum it up. Maybe it's best if we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime, in plain old English. My job was to keep a wary eye on the bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, there was a street side saloon when the time I went down. I'm just an innocent traveler, man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time to hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't hear me complain. Ouch! Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Well, the fingerprint locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not good with machines or following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they? This one seems like trouble. He's all yours. Fair enough. Okay, so... 1, 2, 3... Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. You dragged me down here. Explain yourself. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind, or to be exact, a handprint. Looks real good. Like I said, I'm the caretaker. I pay my respects once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were. But you see, your fingerprints are covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene. The blood was wiped away. The luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, seems to me, there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation, then? About the bloodstained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about the fingerprints. Like I said, it's only natural. My fingerprints in the evidence room. One of them just happened to be in the same place as the bloodstained foot handprint. The murderer touched the locker with my handprint in its place by chance. Bloodstain and the fingerprints are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? I had nothing to do with it. The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may cross-examine the witness. He's hiding something. That's because you, how do you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What do you mean? That's like I said. That locker I used when I was a detective is the locker I still use. All it's in there now is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over the locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without even knowing it. First and fifth. 2, 3, 4. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up with the reports. There was a bloodstain on the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found in Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on the handprint. I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? The seal of blood. In the desert's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. So long as my trail isn't in the air, can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Continue your testimony. What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right? If so, that video's the only direct evidence you got. But that video's next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth, so the floor isn't shown. It means someone familiar with the camera's position, they could have left the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculation. Well, if you can show us evidence of the video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake. Tread carefully, or you might be the one making the mistake yourself. Now then, let's have another look. Show us the incriminating evidence. Bringing our attention back to the security camera. It's a mistake I'm sure you won't forget. Days are short in Texas, So are our tempers. Would you sum up what you have in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in the video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sweet. Exactly 8 words. Not bad. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witnesses, I believe. Now let's rewind the video a bit. Ah, the white cloth's gone. What's the meaning of this? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. And then it suddenly appears. There's only one explanation. You were in the evidence room at the time. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order! Hold your horses. Sorry, but you got the wrong guy. So what if my locker was here? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer seemed to hide something, so he opened the locker and snuck it in. It's not my fault he chose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like that? This guy is not playing dumb. He really doesn't know. Hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that locker. Oh yeah? You say I opened it, now prove it. A fingerprint scanner? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by detectives they belong to. What crazy talk is this? Well, he did mention something like it. So, Sheriff, what you got to say in 8 words or less? He's got to say, I need beef jerky now. I only got 1 word for you, partner. Duh! Okay. Good thing he doesn't have guns in that jacket. Order! Explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst one I've heard. I assure you this is no joke. Then please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room. Ole! Please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright. I believe we could figure out the rest from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yes, Officer Meekins did see Officer Marshall. If so, then where's the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the murder? Officer Marshall was standing right there. What? But that's... That's where Detective Goodman was. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video was Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like him. But that's preposterous! Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he knew for sure. May I point out, though, that he did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him who he was, sir. I asked him to show his card. How did he respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me! Something about that officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? He would have needed to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer's simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on the ID card. I get it. His cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized it wasn't him. And do you have anything to say to this? You got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial? He's still denying it? You're gonna have to do better than that to break me. Unless you got hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you can't hear me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have evidence showing beyond a doubt that he dressed up as the victim? Well, I don't have anything like that. I can see that fear in your eyes. Seems like you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. Eh, so obvious. It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was starting out. When you run into a wall with nowhere to go, you return to the basics. Huh? That would have been what Mia always told me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that he was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for him to open his locker at the time of the crime, and yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later. Which means he didn't originally plan to open it. According to the defense's arguments, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So what exactly was it? Perhaps the video is the key to all of our unanswered questions. Please show us why the witness had to open the locker. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know why you did that yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you, and when asked to show your ID card, you pointed a knife at him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled in blood. A bloody coat. Couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid your coat in the locker. Not bad. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated you. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Ridgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent as you were today, we all wouldn't have been here now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell us the court why you did all of it. All right. Seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. Couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. Wasn't expecting Officer Meekins, so I knocked him out. Then I managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught by the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room. So the supposed victim was really you. There's only one thing I don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for a small donation. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask? SL9. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. No, if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. What did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through it. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says. That case is mine. But he wasn't in charge of the investigation. Why does he care so much? That day was my last chance, that's why. Why'd you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence. Which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole it the morning of the incident. So that's really why Goodman started filing the report? I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor of the prosecutor's parking lot. The ID card I found there. You managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open the locker yourself. But he could because a rubber glove happened to be stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before him. You pulled a knife on him and tried to drive him out? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room no more than 5 minutes. Didn't think no one would actually come in. Officer Meekin's certainly a 1 in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to show his ID card. I'll have to think a little bit more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth have so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me. I ended up cutting him slightly. Sorry it would turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. What happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked him out and managed to escape. So you did your research beforehand? Those who go in the desert unprepared don't live long. I didn't think it would make much of a difference, though. Security tape is erased every 6 hours. If it had all gone to plan, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat and struggled with Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, that jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? Sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, there went any murder. But the blood found on the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What, you blind? The victim shown on the tape is me, and I ain't dead yet. So you stole evidence from the locker? Actually, no, I didn't. When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Where's that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was empty? Someone else stole it? Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why'd you do all this? Stealing an ID? Injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. You can't just be forgiven as a simple pay cut. Not that salary cuts were ever a valid solution. Like I said, this ain't your case. This one's mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get the answer I'm satisfied with. Now, witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. I can't just forget the incident. You know why? But the case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted of his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember that case. It involved serial murderers, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out. But there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at the trial. Something no one will ever talk about. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why is he so concerned? Maybe I should present him with something. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everything involved here is related in some way. I better take another look. Three, 4, 5. Oh. I think I get it. I think I understand why you care so much. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice. That sounds weird. I wouldn't even know what cactus juice would taste like. Because I've never seen a cactus up close. Nor would I want to prick at it, because it would hurt. The name Marshall's mentioned here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall, are you related? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. A prosecutor? Must have been talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. Well, what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murder with Damon Gant, then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. And that's all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed, at least according to public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by him. I knew my brother better than anybody. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for insane action? There's more to my brother's death than the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. At least one thing's for certain. We now know what happened to the police department the day of the crime. It was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with his resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Well, this mystery's finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time with the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on in the police department. It's gotta be more than that. So if no one was murdered at the police department, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky. But a verdict wasn't reached. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department. There's only one reason the defendant was not convicted. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murders. Seems to me this boy's got you on the draw. All of the mysteries have been revealed, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place in the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Sky, and the testimony of Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case. It seems the trial has reached the conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving this alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I saw today was true. The apparent murder on the security tape was faked. I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict is reached. What? Whoa, shit! Your Honor! Wait! Emma? The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? In a sense. Please, all I'm asking for is a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute, he will give you 3. I was kind of in shock, finding out the SL9 incident was referred to Joe Dark. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. What Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. I knew the fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. I left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found in the Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it. But I figured that if I examined it, we'd find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. You found something? No. I'm sorry. I guess I'm not that good of an investigator. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Ah! Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident in the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered there. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with the blood mark, then Lana will be... Please answer my question. We don't have all day. If ever I needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with the handprint? Could there be something I'm missing? This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping at straws. You've been staring pretty intently at these floor plans. Is there a problem with them? This is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something's missing. Missing? Something that should have been there? Yes, something, when drawn, would completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let's pray for your defense that you're simply not trying to buy time. Very well. With the evidence I have, there's gotta be something I can use. The question is, which item could prove that something's missing? What about this piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth and guardian of proof. Explain yourself. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not there. So watch what happens when you put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as he's dancing there, it would be impossible to place a handprint on that spot. What? So this means... What exactly does it mean? It means it can't be done. Blood traces were undeniably found on the locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put them there. Mr. Wright, think about it. On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger into the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would have been impossible to leave a handprint on the locker. So that means this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was in? Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st in the evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. One time was captured on this tape, taken by security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount spilled. The problem is, the other time... someone bled prior to the struggle. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found in the locker. So then, assuming this murder you report really took place, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did it first occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? Proof must be presented. There's only one piece of evidence that shows that. What shows the first crime took place? Aha. A good whole hour before the whole or half hour before the incident took place. And then a half hour before, or a full hour before the murder. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, the killer would have to enter it, and in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? The ID card record! Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel to the evidence room. 450. If the crime took place before that time, it would be 440. Ah! Miles Edgeworth! I never would have figured you'd had nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure it out. It couldn't have been me. I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test of blood that was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away. But the real murderer, I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime would have taken place before he got there. There's only one other card. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with this person. Look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number that's... That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that card. At least at present. What? Explain yourself. The ID number belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. The so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire on such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how? I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries? That's how prosecutor office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you'd lay off your slander a little bit. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her number, and it's not 777. Don't play me for a fool. That's not what I wanted to ask. All I want to know is one thing about the incident. Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat the question? I heard him fine. 2 years ago, I was in charge of prosecution for that trial. At the time, we occasionally felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana! I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones suppressed by the law. Just what are you saying? I'll ask you again. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look at me, an investigator in the crime, and tell me that's what you did? You didn't. I don't have to, officer. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to do in order to get the verdict we deserved. Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. See? That's what I'm talking about. No! Oh, Jesus. Lana's remarks caused a stir. The chaos in the courtroom couldn't be quelled. The conclusion would have to wait until the following day. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, those were some long trials. I'll give them that much. But we're now into the final day of investigation. And then soon we shall end this trial for real. But that'll do it for me today. And thank you guys so much for watching.